Denzel Washington is back again in The Equalizer 3. Equalizer 2 was such a horrible film. Does this film actually improve the fact that The Equalizer 2 is an absolutely terrible film? Well, stick around and let's talk about it. Robert McCall finds himself at home in southern Italy, but he discovers his friends are under the control of local crime bosses. As events turn deadly, McCall knows what he has to do: become his friend's protector by taking on the mafia. The film stars Denzel Washington, Dakota Fanning, David Denman, and many others, and was directed by Antoine Fuqua, and he's done all of the Equalizer films. When I saw the trailer for The Equalizer 3, my first thought was, man, it's been a while since The Equalizer 2. A few days before I went to go check out this in theaters, I went ahead and checked out The Equalizer 2, and wow, that was an absolutely horrible film. Pacing was really bad, villains were really bad, and overall it was just a bore of a movie. And so I was really worried about checking out this film. The trailer just kind of looked like your generic kind of action film, and I didn't really think too much about it. Ultimately, I think that Denzel Washington is by now very comfortable with this character. It definitely shows in this film. I do like that we have a change of scenery in this film in Italy. It is a very relaxing experience for Denzel Washington's character. He just has this role down so well. He can go from calm to this hero guy that is stopping all these different bad guys, which I really do appreciate. And I think that this film has a very good intro. You have him sitting down in the chair. He's threatening all these different bosses. They're selling all these different drugs off and everything like that, and he is there to take them down. And the opening scene, the fact that he has a gun and he shoots it through somebody's eye to kill someone, is absolutely awesome way to start off a film. Throughout this film, it's a film that doesn't have a ton of action with it, but when the action is there, I think it's done pretty well. I think Denzel, he knows to go from 0 to 100 in that split second. These bosses that he's fighting in this film, I thought they did a good job of actually building them up. Now, they aren't doing anything different than any other bosses. They're doing all these different drugs and selling them off and making money and trying to take over the territory. You've seen that many times in action films. Now, what I didn't like about this film is there's a part where Robert McCall's character actually calls on the government to get involved and actually track down these bad guys and their habits, and Dakota Fanning gets involved. Now, I'm not saying she was bad in this, because she wasn't bad. The problem was she was only in a few scenes. I didn't feel like it really pushed the story any further than it needed to be. I think Denzel Washington's character really carried the film enough to where we didn't really need any kind of government assistance. Even though they're in this film and they're trying to track down these guys, they don't really do a whole lot in the film, and they don't really have a whole lot of scenes within the film. So they're just kind of on the back burner of this film, and you're really just following Denzel Washington's character. Throughout this runtime, after the really kick-ass intro, the film, it does slow down quite a bit. And we have a lot of building of this mob that is taking over the city in Italy. They are destroying homes. They are destroying people's lives. They're wreaking havoc within the town, which I really did appreciate that we have some kind of evil presence within the film, and they're building those characters, because it makes it to feel like you just hate those villains. And I think they did a really good job of actually doing that. Now with Denzel, and when he comes in this film, he just knows what to do in this role. He knows how to track down these bad guys. He's very mysterious in his character. And even though he's living this comfortable life in Italy, it doesn't stop him from going after what he thinks is right. And I do think that there are some scenes in here where he definitely overpowered these guys very easily, which I think was a little bit to a disadvantage of the film, because I think in parts they really do build up these crime bosses and they're really strong. And when he comes in, I get that he's supposed to overpower them, but I think they should have did that gradually within the film. I think there are parts in here where he completely embarrasses them, and I think it takes away from their power, and it makes them less as villains, is the word I want to search for here. And because it makes them less as villains, it makes them feel not as fearful as you would think they should be as villains, but the town themselves are fearful of these guys. And that's really the basis of this story. It's not anything too groundbreaking. If you're looking for a ton of action, it's not in this film. There is a lot of points in this film where there is so much building up that you're just waiting for something to happen. And I think for some people, it's just going to be a little bit too boring. I think for me, I kind of expected it, but after watching the second film, I can promise you guys that the pacing in this film is much better than 2 for sure. I do think at times this film, it does try to capitalize on the fact that we are in Italy here, and there is a lot of shots that really overlook this Italian city, which could really turn people into wanting to go onto a vacation. I think it feels like an advertisement for this Italian city throughout the runtime, and I do think at times that this film, it does make Denzel Washington feel like a human and not some crazy monster that can't be killed, because there is a part in this film where he is actually wounded, and I do like that they actually have that in the film, because sometimes you have these guys that are just kicking ass throughout the film, and it seems like they try to make them this big superhero that can't be actually shot down, can't actually get hurt, and they make them this immortal monster that really can't be stopped. The mistake of this film for me is the fact there is one scene where Denzel Washington is in a restaurant and he's watching these guys actually pick on this person. And when he goes up to them, he actually just pretty much almost breaks the guy's hand. And I feel like it's a little bit too easy for Denzel to actually take down this group, because in the film, they're trying to build these guys, and it just seems a little bit too easy for Denzel to just kind of step in. I don't think the film really gets to a realm of like a John Wick where it's just completely impossible to actually kill Denzel. I think that there are practical scenes that actually make sense, but then there's also that movie magic where certain things where you're like, oh, there's no way he could actually take down all these guys at once. So there is that portion of the film, but I think overall for a finale film and the ending of this film, it's an okay ending to the franchise. I don't think it's a very, I would say, exciting end to the franchise. I think it's just kind of a ending for the sake of having an ending and just kind of tying up the franchise. I think it makes sense as an ending. I think overall that the film, it does what it can with what it's trying to do as far as the script. You know, it's not a tough script or anything. I think what it really needed was a little bit more action, maybe a cut down a little bit in the runtime. I'm not really sure what they really could have cut out of this film, but I think overall what this film for me is, it's a good film. It's not a great film, but it definitely improves in aspects from the second film. So as far as the score for this film, I would give it a 3 out of 5, and I would put it as a positive score and a much improvement over the second film. But let me know in the comments, what did you guys think about the Equalizer 3? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't seen it, are you going to be checking it out when it comes to VOD? Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on my next review.